Hello, good morning, good morning. Welcome back, or welcome to our first Wyoming Humanities / Wyoming Center for the Book morning show. It's our first one. We'll see how it goes. I'm sure it's going to go great. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking the same thing I am. It is going to go great. So I just have to say, I'm Lucas Freilich with Wyoming Humanities. I'm the program coordinator as well as the director of the Wyoming Center for the Book, which happens to be housed within Wyoming Humanities, a Library of Congress associated program. And I want to thank the Library of Congress, and of course we can't continue without thanking the Institute for Museum and Library Sciences, all of our donors, and of course our Wyoming Humanities Board, all of which helped make this whole thing possible. Now what is this? I know you're wondering at the edge of your seat. It's okay. I will be getting to that soon. So the most recent National Book Festival took place sometime in late August. Every year, the Wyoming Center for the Book selects 2 books to represent Wyoming at the festival. This year, we selected The Wolves of Yellowstone, a rewilding story, as one of our major selections. It was very popular. It went over really well, by the way. It's really great. We're very fortunate to have the author of this book, Catherine Barr, with us here today, as we'll be traveling across the state following this to talk about her work and, of course, this book. Locations include Riverton, Wyoming, where we will be stopping on October 2nd, at the Reach Foundation Club at 1:30 p.m., Lander, Wyoming, where we will be stopping at the Pioneer Museum on October 3rd at 6:30 p.m., and in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, we'll have not just one, that's right, 2 places, where we will be stopping at the Teton County Public Library, partnering with the Jackson Hole Writers Group, talking about how to write books for children, which should be a lot of fun. That'll be at 9:30 a.m. And a final stop will be at the National Museum of Wildlife Art with researcher Leo Leckie at 2:30 p.m. So please find more details at our website, www.thinkwy.org, and of course on Facebook and other ways you get your social media news. And you can always reach out to anyone on staff. We're happy to help you out. Along the way, we will be exploring Wyoming and talking to amazing people, including Governor Gordon, exploring the Red Desert, seeing wild horses, and so much more, all throughout our great state of Wyoming, ending with Yellowstone National Park. So, to kick things off, welcome to Wyoming, Catherine.
I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much, Lucas, for that fantastic introduction. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. It's such a pleasure and a joy, and it's come out of an initiative from our initial conversation we had when you told me. I was so thrilled to discover that, and so honoured that my book has been chosen, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here. Thank you for having me, and thrilled that it's finally happening and I'm finally here.
Great. Excitement's mutual. It's always a good thing.
Yeah.
So first, I would like to ask, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, research-wise, career, and give us a little teaser on how you came to write The Wolves of Yellowstone.
Okay, so I have always been passionately interested in the environment, in ecology, and the world around me. I studied ecology at university and then went on to work for Greenpeace for many, many years as a wildlife campaigner, working on wildlife and forestry in a global capacity for Greenpeace International, which I loved, being at the cutting edge of activism and cutting edge of trying to work with local people and understanding how change works at a local level. I was always interested in words and the power of words to influence people, inspire people and engage people. So then I trained as a journalist. I took a bit of time out from Greenpeace to train as a journalist. And then I was going to move on after that, and then they invited me whether I'd like to go with them on their ship to Brazil, up to the Amazon, as a PR manager. So I did that for a month because that was an irresistible thing from them to come back to. So I was very lucky. So I've travelled a lot with Greenpeace and met a lot of scientists and people working in the field. And then I worked as an editor at the Natural History Museum in London, where I worked with curators and scientists to bring their stories, their very academic work to the public. I wrote exhibitions about dinosaurs and about mythical monsters, and met the public and engaged with people and families through that work that I really loved, and also worked with social environmental change organisations as well. Became a writer kind of by mistake. We moved away from London to the countryside. I had 2 girls. I'm a mum. I've got a 21 and 23-year-old. And they were at primary school and came back one day asking about the story of life and how come the world is so full of creatures and life and plants, and how did it all happen? And I couldn't find that amazing true story in a book. I found very boring textbooks, but I was unable to find a narrative, the narrative of the story of life on Earth. And so I wrote my first book that 10 years ago with a biology teacher, Steve Williams, who was a local guy who I knew, and we wrote it together and then tried to find a publisher for that. And in fact, the Natural History Museum in London offered to publish it. So it was through them that I met my first publisher, and the book, I think, has now sold about 85,000 copies globally. So
just a few.
It's so it was a hit, and I loved writing it, and then it's spiraled from there, and 10 years on, I'm still writing and still loving it. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah. And how many books have you published so far?
I think it's about 35 in 10 years. So I've kind of been busy. I work on about 4 books at the same time. They're all at different stages, which is a lovely part of writing a picture book, that it's being illustrated or edited or researched or written, so that I have lots and lots of projects on the go at the same time. And I enjoy that kind of multi crafting process, and enjoy dipping into all the different subjects that I get involved in.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Lots of balancing act, I'm sure, going on.
Yeah, I love that.
What is, you alluded to this a little bit just now, but what motivates you the most for your work? Like, what gets you to write, and what motivates you? What's your big motivator?
My biggest motivator is inspiring children and engaging children in firstly, because I write for primary children mostly, although my books do kind of cross all ages, but is engaging them in nature and being a sense of awe and wonder about the world around them. Because from that, unless they have that sense of excitement and wonder and curiosity, then that inspires them to go on to want to help care for that world and understand those relationships between people and nature. And as they grow up, whatever they do, in whatever capacity they work or live, to care for the world around them, and to get involved and to take action and learn about what's going on. So my first kind of what drives me is that interest, and always has, in engaging with children and seeing their eyes light up when they discover a story or want to share a story and read and learn. So inspiring curiosity, really, and conversation about that curiosity is what I'm interested in doing. So being an author is just kind of a means to an end for me. It's a way of doing that. It's what I'm doing at the moment.
Oh, that's great. That's a good motivation, I think. Very positive. So, taking a bit of step back broadly here. So now that you're in Wyoming for the first time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been here before. It's so exciting for me to be here and to actually visit. I've written the Wolves of Yellowstone, or as 14 Wolves, as it's called in the UK. They changed the name in the US. I did so much work and so much research and worked with so many people to learn about all of my books. I worked with scientists all over the world. But Yellowstone Park and the story of the behind this book has inspired me and interested me so much. So it's such a joy to actually come here and to visit the park for the first time, and to see the incredible wilderness and talk to people on the ground who are involved in these stories behind this book.
Great, I am too. I'm looking forward to that
Yeah.
also, because I also have never met these scientists, and I'd like to. That would be nice. So, as things are, what is something you're looking forward to the most?
Well, I think visiting. I'm very proud that the book sells in the bookstore in Yellowstone Park, because it as part of being able to be for sale inside the park, there has to go through a sort of rigorous scientific check. All the books on sale there, and that, to me, with all of my books and a lot of my work, is that telling those stories in the places where the books are set is really important to me, in those communities and in those places, and and when I have an opportunity to visit those places myself and to see for myself the incredible wilderness and the wildlife and the people as well, and to learn more. For me, that's what I'm interested in, is finding out more and learning also about my other books I've written most recently about wildlife crossings. And I know in Wyoming there are many different types of wildlife crossings, and the stories behind that migration of animals is I'm very excited to learn about that from people while I'm here, and I'm sure it will inspire new books and new ideas, which happens all the time as I travel and meet people and learn. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
Ooh, I am too. Looking forward to your next book about Wyoming, actually. That's going to be a goal. I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah.
And so to kind of reach a bit of a concluding point here, I think we've covered a lot of great things. And again, you alluded to a bit of your work, but what always drew you to nature to begin with? Because you mentioned you started working with Greenpeace, and you've been involved with ecology and these sort of environments. But what was experiences growing up, or how did you, like, what about nature is really cool to you, basically?
Well, we always went, as a family, we always used to go on walks. So I remember we used to go on family walks, and we used to try and learn the names of plants and flowers at the beginning of the walk. And by the end of the walk, my mum would ask me if I remembered the names of the plants we'd seen on the way out, and whether I remembered them on the way back. And so I remember learning like that. And there's a book called I don't know if you've seen it, Janet Marsh's Nature Diary, which I was brought up with. Well, I loved it, and it's a story of a woman who lived in England, who lived in a valley there, and she painted and wrote stories about the nature in a very relatively small area. And at that time I was doing a little bit of painting, and I used to write loads of diaries and about nature and draw as well. And so I loved her book, and I loved the way that she sort of explored this ecosystem and explored the environment. And that's what I really love, is discovering the links between plants and animals and the environment. That's why I studied ecology. It's the links that I'm interested in, which is behind the story behind the Wolves of Yellowstone, was the ecosystem and the trophic cascade, and the way that nature is balanced and unbalanced in our world today. And growing up, discovering those stories was very important to me, and I loved it. So I always want, and in fact at school I was much better at languages and English than I was at science. And one of the teachers asked me, like, why are you going on to study science? You're so much better at languages and English, which I'm now rubbish at, languages that is. But I said, well, that's what I'm interested in. I might not be so good at it, but I'm more interested in that, and I'm interested in the challenge of understanding science, whether it's chemistry or geography or biology or geology. So I pursued that because I was most interested in that. So that's the story. And then I'm passionately interested in the relationship between us and the natural world, and addressing and tackling some of the big issues that face us today, in terms of getting children involved in those conversations, whether it's climate change or evolution or wildfires or different what's happening to our ocean and pollution, and those stories children can be engaged with really easily, I think, through pictures and simple, even if they don't understand I get 4-year-olds reading my books and getting feedback from those families of just looking at the pictures, and you can start a conversation. And I think it's really important to engage children in those big pictures from a very young age.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Thank you. I think it very much clicks into the idea of links and how things form together like this. And I think you put that really well.
Oh, thank you.
Is there anything else you would like to add about your work, this trip, anything?
I think I find as an author, I spend actually, ironically, very little time kind of writing. Most of my time is researching, but also I spend a lot of time in schools, and I visit schools. A lot of my time in the UK is spent visiting schools, and I travel all over, and I do kind of workshops in schools and readings and that kind of thing, whether it's to a small class or an assembly or whoever is interested. And I really enjoy that, engaging with the teachers, and a lot of my books are linking in the UK and with the curriculum there, across English and science, and sharing those stories and getting kids involved in. And I have a lot of props. I quickly realised you need a lot of props, from fluffy animals to long timelines, or ping pong balls for sea turtle eggs, or whatever it is, that help engage the children in those stories. So I do really enjoy that, being out and about and talking to the kids that are reading the books and getting their thoughts and ideas as feedback. It's really important to me, and it helps me as a writer to think about how I write, and writing better or differently, or writing in ways that children find interesting. So
there's a clear passion, I can tell, and I think all of our viewers can too. It's great. Very excited to have you to Wyoming.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm very excited to be here and to learn from this week.
Ooh, I am too. We're going to learn all sorts of cool things.
Yeah.
Thank you all for watching, and we look forward to seeing you out there in the vast state of Wyoming. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.